Sara had always believed that love was supposed to be easy. When she met Ben 2 years ago, everything seemed perfect. They shared everything: long walks, late-night conversations, and the kind of laughter that made the world feel lighter. After months of dating, they decided to move in together. It felt like the natural next step, and Sara couldn't have been happier. But recently, something had started to shift. It was subtle at first. A comment here, a tone there. She brushed it off, at first telling herself that maybe she was just overthinking. But the more she reflected, the more she began to question the way Ben made her feel. One evening, as they sat at the kitchen table, Ben looked up from his phone, his brow furrowed. "I don't really think you're doing enough for me lately," he said, his voice cool, almost accusatory. Sara froze, confused. "What do you mean? I thought we were just having a quiet weekend." Ben sighed, rolling his eyes. "Exactly. It's always about you. You don't even think about what I need." His words stung, though she couldn't exactly put her finger on why. She had planned a quiet weekend, sure, but it wasn't because she didn't care. She simply wanted a break from the hectic pace of life. But Ben's tone left her feeling guilty, like she had somehow failed him. "I'm sorry, I didn't know you felt that way," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "It's like you never listen," Ben muttered, turning back to his phone. "Maybe if you cared more, you'd notice." Sara tried to shake off the nagging feeling that something was wrong, but as the days passed, it only got worse. Ben's comments became more frequent. Each one made her feel smaller, like she was walking through her life in a haze, unsure of her own thoughts. After a few weeks, Sara couldn't ignore it any longer. She'd find herself second-guessing everything, her actions, her words, her feelings. She'd remember a conversation where she'd been assertive, only to hear Ben's voice echoing in her head, saying she was too sensitive or that she was always making things up. He had a way of twisting her reality, making her question whether she had said something wrong, or worse, if she had been overreacting. It was a chilly night when it all came to a head. They'd been arguing about something trivial, a misplaced towel, and as usual, Ben quickly escalated it. He was angry, his face flushed with frustration. "You're just too sensitive, Sara," he said sharply. "I don't know how to talk to you anymore without you twisting everything I say." Her heart sank. She'd heard those words before, and each time they made her feel like the problem was with her, not with the way he was treating her. But tonight, something inside her shifted. The knot in her stomach didn't feel like the usual guilt. It felt like a warning. She left the room, her mind racing, and stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at her reflection. Her eyes were red from crying, her face pale. She wasn't sure how much more she could take. She had tried so hard to please him, to keep him happy, but all she felt now was exhausted and small. The realization hit her like a jolt. This wasn't normal. What Ben was doing wasn't just a difference in personality or a few misplaced arguments. It was manipulation. Sara sat down on the edge of the bed, breathing deeply. For so long, she had doubted herself, trying to navigate the maze of Ben's words, but now everything made sense. His need to control her emotions, to make her feel responsible for his unhappiness. This wasn't love, it was manipulation. The thought was freeing. She wasn't the problem, Ben was, and recognizing that felt like stepping out of a fog. The next morning, she decided she couldn't live like this anymore. It was time to talk to Ben, to face the reality of what their relationship had become. She sat him down, her heart pounding in her chest. "Ben, I've been thinking a lot about us," she began, her voice steady despite the nerves twisting in her stomach. "I can't keep pretending everything is okay when it's not. I feel like I'm constantly walking on eggshells, trying to keep you happy, but in the process, I've lost myself." Ben blinked, his expression shifting from confusion to defensiveness. "What are you talking about?" Sara took a deep breath, her words coming out more confidently now. I've realized that some of the things you've said to me, turning everything I do into something wrong, making me feel guilty for having my own feelings, that's emotional manipulation. And I can't be in a relationship where I feel like I'm constantly at fault. It's not healthy. Ben's face twisted, his eyebrows drawing together. You're overreacting, Sara. I'm just trying to help you see things my way. Why can't you just understand that? Sara shook her head, her heart aching. No, Ben, I'm not overreacting. I've been living in a constant state of self-doubt, but I'm done. I need to take care of me now. There was silence. Ben didn't say anything for a long moment, his eyes narrowing, but Sara could see the shift. He wasn't used to her standing up for herself. He was used to her apologizing, to her shrinking back when he belittled her. But she wasn't going to do that anymore. She stood up, her legs trembling but her resolve strong. I think it's time for us to take a break. I need space to figure out who I am without this constant weight. I deserve that. Ben's silence was the loudest answer she could have received. As she walked out of the room, Sara felt a strange peace settle over her. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't the end she had once imagined for their relationship, but it was the beginning of something important, the beginning of finding herself again. Days turned into weeks, and Sara took the time she needed to heal. She spent time with friends, rediscovered old hobbies, and started to reconnect with the person she had been before Ben. Slowly, the weight she had carried for so long began to lift, and with each passing day, she felt stronger, more sure of herself. She realized that true love wasn't about control or manipulation. It was about mutual respect, trust, and support. When Sara finally looked at her reflection in the mirror again, she didn't see the girl who had once doubted herself. She saw someone who had learned to stand up for herself, to recognize when love was being used to manipulate, and to walk away when it was no longer healthy. And for the first time in a long time, she smiled. She had chosen herself, and that, she realized, was the most powerful decision she could ever make.